today, but thank God, ọmọkùnrin yẹn ó fi maturity hàn.
Okay, please remain muted. Sorry, yes, we started by saying, what do men really want in marriage? And it was quite eye-opening. And then last week we talked about how do you react when vicissitudes of life hit you in a marriage? And, they've both been really interesting. And today we are going to be talking about, how do I recognize, my husband? There was a minister who came, I think a year or two ago, who was talking to us and saying how she was 35 and almost missed her husband because she was expecting a certain type of person. And so when her husband came, she was like, oh, she almost missed him. And it's very easy to miss your husband or to be barking up the wrong tree, and everybody knows that one of the critical success factors of life is the person you end up with. And it's not a decision to be taken lightly. It is something that needs to be taken seriously. And it's not a decision you take, you do with your heart. Oh, I like him. Oh, no. Anyway, don't let me jump the gun. I am also interested in what Yomi is going to be talking about. And what I love, oh my goodness, Yomi, I didn't get your bio. I'm supposed to be reading your bio now. Give me a minute. Yes, so anyway, I was saying that one of the reasons that I invited you was because you're young, even though you've just been telling me about your glasses saga. I feel that people would be able to relate to you more. And the fact that you are also down to earth. You are a Christian, but you are you are realistic. You're not going to come and tell us, you're not going to come and call a dog a monkey for us. Just give me a minute and I'll read out your bio.
For the bio, we can keep it simple. I'm a girl, I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a friend.
I'm not doing that.
That's it. And see, I think we're good. I think
I should keep it simple. Yes.
Really? Actually, I'm giving it to you. I'm like 5 things. I'm literally just a girl, a mom, a wife, a sister, a friend, a daughter. That's Yomi in a nutshell. Really.
Yes. And I'm just saying that I just love your being down to earth, which is part of what you just did now. That, some of those bios, sometimes when they say to me, send the bio, I'm like, I beg, which bio again are we sending? And then you sit there and you think, I've written too much. Have I written enough? And then before you know it, you have 2 pages. Meanwhile, you were not planning to say anything in the first place. You would have been happy with, this is Olamide Balogun, and she's going to be talking to us about how we find, how we know this is our husband. So without much ado, I am really excited for this. And we have some of the older people here, not because they want to know, but because they also want to be able to counsel. The Bible says the older women need to be able to tell the younger women how to behave and how to keep home. So I'm expecting a lot more people. So please, if you invited anybody and they're not here, please, can you just invite them? Can you just let them know that we have started? So without much ado, Yomi, how do I know this is the guy? How am I sure I'm not falling for the wrong person? So I'm going to remove myself. You have the floor. So you have the floor for the next 40 minutes, and then we'll take some questions. Shalom.
As you said, 40 minutes. 40 minutes. All right. So good evening, everyone. My name is Yomi. And Auntie Lamide had asked me to talk about how do I recognize my husband in the midst of all. And of course, it's a Christian fellowship. And so I thought the best thing to do is to go to the Bible. And, thanks to AI, I was able to find summarized versions of, you know, how people found their partners in the Bible. And some of the ones that were more interesting included find an attractive prisoner of war, bring her home, shave her head, trim her nails, and give her new clothes. Then she's yours. So that's Deuteronomy 21:11-13. You have find a prostitute and marry her. That's Hosea chapter 1, verse 1-3. And then there's a popular one here that says, find a man with 7 daughters and impress him by watering his flock. I think a gentleman named Moses tried that strategy and it worked for him. Another one was, you know, go to sleep and let God create a wife for you, but it'll definitely cost you a rib. And then, of course, the wisest man in the world said, don't be picky, choose quantity over quality. Now, I'm sure, yes, these are all strategies that were in the Bible, but I think we all agree that that's not what we're here to talk about today. So I'm going to get into it. For anyone, I was just kidding. Don't go and look for a prisoner of war and kidnap anyone. Okay, that was the Old Testament. We're now in the New Testament. So let's not do that. But in terms of choosing your husband in the midst of all, you know, there's a debate that how do you know he's the one? How do you know she's the one? How do you know I don't miss the one? And, you know, I wonder that, is there the one? If there's only the one, then it removes choice, it removes free will. And God started off by giving us choice. When he put Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and he had 2 trees, there was the tree of life and there was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God said, don't take the fruit from this tree. Now, he didn't remove the tree, he didn't barricade the tree. They had the choice and they chose the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's the tree that they chose. So from the very beginning, we've always had choice. So I am going to talk from how to choose the one for you rather than how to find the one. And I'm going to go to, I think before I even talk about finding the one, I thought about how prepared we are for the one. If we found the one right now, if he or she walked in right now, would we be prepared? Would we even recognize the person? Would the person recognize us? And I think as much as we're looking, we need to be ready for what it is that we want. I mean, I was asking a friend, I said, in terms of preparedness, do you need therapy? Do you need an exorcism? That people who are dealing with things, are dealing with challenges that they need to resolve before they're even in a position to really let someone into their lives. You know, to say you want to take on a partner, are you ready to be a lover? Are you ready to be a friend? Are you ready to be a companion? Are you ready to be a carer? Are you ready to take care of someone who's ill, someone who is not feeling their best, someone who's low? Are you ready to carry them? And all of the things that you're looking for in this partner to do for you, are you ready to give those things? And I think sometimes we need to be honest and say, put our hands up and say, no, I'm not ready yet. You know, even, do you know yourself? You're talking about a partner and you're talking about, how do I find the one? What about you? What do you know about yourself? Do you know yourself? Do you like yourself? Do you recognize what is in yourself that should be loved and treasured? Before you look for someone to love, do you even love yourself? And that's a whole different topic, but those are the questions that I would ask, that I would say you need to be able to answer before you start looking for anyone else. Before you look for anyone to carry you, have you been working out to make sure you can carry someone else? Even Esther in the Bible, in Esther chapter 2, verses 8 to 9 and 12 to 17, it talks about how she prepared for a year. She had beauty treatments. They used cosmetics. So everyone who talks about lashes, Esther had help too. Okay. So no one should talk about our lashes, microblading or anything else, because she had a full year of spa treatments and she learned about etiquette. So she was prepared physically, she was prepared socially, she was prepared mentally before she met the king, before she met who was going to be her husband. She was prepared. And I think it's very, very important that we remember that on this journey to finding the one, that, you know, when the one comes, we're ready. We're sitting on ready. Now, how do we choose? So I again went back to the Bible, and please, I will say to everyone who's listening, someone once said in church that anyone who puts a verse on your own, go back and read the first 3 verses before and like 3 verses after, to make sure it's in the right context and it's not being manipulated. So for everything that I put, please, everyone, go back and check it, please. But I looked at the story of Isaac when his mother died and his dad, Abraham, was trying to help him find a wife. And 2 things jumped out at me in that story. So just a synopsis, Sarah had died and Abraham saw how distraught his son Isaac was and decided that, look, he needs a wife. And so Abraham called a servant of his and said to him that, look, I don't like these Canaanite women, so I'm going to need you to go back to Haran, where I'm originally from, to find a wife for my son. And so the servant goes back, and when he gets there, he says a prayer and he says, Lord, please help me find the right person. And the way in which I will know that you have sent this person to me is that when this lady sees me, because I'm standing by a well, she's gonna offer me water, and then she's also gonna offer my camel's water as well. And as he finished praying, a lady named Rebecca strolls up and offers the servant water, and then also offers to water his camels as well. And of course he says, oh, praise the Lord has answered my prayers. And he introduces himself, he explains his mission, she agrees to go with him, and she meets Isaac and they live happily ever after. I want to talk about the fact that Isaac later, like, while being afraid of being killed because of her, said she was his sister, but that's a different story. But other than that, they loved each other. And even in that triflingness, the way in which the king found out that no, that was his wife, was they were together. So that's the 2 things that, you know, jumped out to me in that story was location and qualification. Abraham recognized that where they were, the women in that region were not best suited for his son. And the servant who went looking for a wife for Isaac had put some pre-agreed qualifications in place. So he had said to God, Lord, if she does this, if she's like this, if she says this, then that's how I know she's the one. So I'm going to talk first about qualifications. So what do we look for in terms of the qualifications for this chosen one, the one that we're going to choose? And the first, choose values over interests. So a lot of times, you know, when you go on dating sites, when you're talking to people, they say, oh, you know, you should have shared interests. What are the things you have in common? You know, maybe you like tennis, so he should like tennis, or you like to travel, so you're looking for someone to travel with. And I would say to you that it's very easy to find someone who shares your interests. It's very easy to find someone who likes to travel, or who likes to eat out, or who likes to watch movies, Netflix and chill. But what is more important than interests is values. Values are what determines the person's character. Values are what determines how the person lives, how the person treats people, how the person will treat you, how the person will raise children if you have children together. You know, so I think sometimes we get distracted. You meet this guy and you know, you're just distracted by his shoulders because you're like, what? You know, and he's just the most handsome man you've ever seen. And we don't always consider that this person who we're spending time with and we want to be with is who will raise our children with us. And we are not always careful to align our values. You know, we look at interests. Oh, you know, this person is a professional, just the way I'm a professional, and this person goes to the same church that I do. Going to the same church does not equate having the same values. Both being Christians does not equate having the same values. There are Christians who are not patient. There are Christians who are not kind. There are Christians who are not generous. We're human beings. If we remember that we're human beings and we're constantly being worked on by the Holy Spirit, then we shouldn't just assume. If you know yourself, then you will know that you're not perfect. And there are definitely things that God is still working on you. But however long you've been a Christian, God is still working on you in terms of those things. So understanding that about yourself, you should know that this brother or this sister that you meet in church is not a finished product, but a work in progress. And so we shouldn't just assume because we met the person somewhere, or because the person has this title, therefore they automatically have the same values as you. And so it's really, really important that your values align. The next thing that I would say is in terms of character, don't mix things up. Don't mix up extravagance and generosity. You know, you meet a gentleman who, you know, he's doing very well, and without effort, he's taking you out and he's wining and dining you, and, you know, he's buying you gifts. Is he buying you gifts out of abundance, or is he buying you gifts because he cares about you? Is he taking you out or doing things for you because you mean something to him, or because he can? You know, there are a lot of people who, again, in terms of money, in terms of resources, have an abundance of it. So giving it out doesn't mean anything to them. So when you're receiving and, you know, it's continuous, you need to be discerning. You need to check, is he giving it to me because he cares about me, or does he give it to everyone? And we must also be really careful that we don't confuse generosity with kindness. Now, what I mean by that, it's that they're both good things, right? but one is without intention and the other is with intention. If you're a generous person, you're a generous person. You can give. However, if you're a kind person, if you're a considerate person, then you take the time to know, you take the time to know this person, to understand them, to be able to give to them. So I'll give you an example. You're a young lady and you're going on a date with this guy. You've probably gone out with him a couple times and you go to a restaurant and he says, oh, I'm ordering, and he orders the entire menu. That's generosity. If you go on a date with this guy and you go to a restaurant and he orders and he says, oh, she'll have a Chapman, but don't add cucumber to it because she doesn't like cucumber. And for the salad, she'll have the lettuce, but she doesn't want cabbage. That's someone who has gotten to know you. And even though he's making decisions on your behalf and he is doing something for you or speaking for you, it's not because he's exerting himself, it's because he's gotten to know you. So even when he's taking the lead, he's shown you that I know you, so I'm not going to mislead you. I'm not going to take you where you shouldn't go or where we shouldn't go. And in relationships, in marriage, we talk a lot about submission. Women submit. And I will tell every woman who will listen to me that choose wisely. Do not choose someone who does not have your interest at heart, because the church body is going to tell you to submit. But if you submit to someone who does not care about you, that person can lead you off a cliff, and you are supposed to follow. Make sure the person cares about you. Make sure the person is considerate towards you. Make sure the person considers you. And those things are things that you see through his actions, through his speech, through his interactions, even with other people. So when we're talking about values, how does he talk to other people? How does he treat people who work for him? How does he treat people he works for? How does he treat people who he has an advantage over? How does he treat people even within his family? How does he treat women? Those are insights into how he will treat you. Those are insights into the values he will raise his children to follow. So hence I say, look at values before you look at interests. You'll find that a lot of really successful couples don't necessarily share the same interests. And it's okay. The reason why we don't have to share the same interests is because when we share the same values, when we share a care for each other, there is a way in which we will rub off on each other. So, for example, I don't really care about football at all. At all. However, my younger brother is a huge football fan. And when he was in boarding school, he had come home one year and complained that, oh, there's a child who gets letters every week. And he, in his family, has never received a letter. I mean, all of us are he's throwing us away. And so I made a point of watching football games so that I could write him letters and have something to talk about in the letters that I was writing to him. Now, did this 13-year-old boy read my letters, think, oh my gosh, my sister loves me so much, I'm going to write her back? No, he did not. But again, we love not to be loved in return, but because we have been given these people to love. And he, in return, I mean, he's my brother, so what can I say? That's the reason why you can't choose your family, but you can definitely you can definitely choose your spouse. So but yeah, so look for love, look for kindness, look for consideration, look for patience. You know, in a relationship, you're two different people and you're coming from two different backgrounds. There is a way in which you will grate on each other. Does that person care enough to know you, to understand that you don't say things the way he says it, but you didn't mean to say it in a way to hurt him? Are you going to be patient enough to learn him that that's not how your daddy did it, that's not how your brother did it, but the way he's doing it is the way in which he knows to show love? So again, values over interests. I would say to you that make sure that the person you're choosing is someone who you do not have to diminish yourself to be with. Now, in Proverbs 18:16, it says that your gift will make room for you. Now, I am saying that make sure you find someone who will make room for your gift. Now, what do I mean by that? I had a milestone birthday a couple years ago, and I wanted to do a Thanksgiving. And I said to my husband, I said, oh, I'm not going to do what everybody else does. Everybody else, has hymns and has these readings. And if I'm going to invite everyone to a Thanksgiving, I want them to know what I'm thankful for. So I'm going to write a couple testimonies, just 3 or 4, and have my siblings read the testimonies, and then, we'll sing a hymn or, something like that. And so I started writing these stories. Now I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller. It's something that I've always done. I like to write. I'm always writing. And so, I'd sit down at the table and I'd type up a story, and then I'd read it to him. And he'd be like, oh, that's really good. Oh, write another one. And then, I'd write another one. Then I'd remember, oh, that was this time. And then, and before you know it, I had written about 6 or 7 stories. And then, this gentleman would come home and he'd say to me, Yomi, have you written any stories today? And I'm like, no, I thought I had enough. He's like, no, you need to write some more stories. And he kept asking me to write more and more stories. He'd come up, what have you written today? Can I read what you've written today? And I'm like, okay, Ike Turner's cousin that doesn't hit or humiliate. All right, then. And I wrote these stories and I gave them to him, and I was like, okay, choose whichever ones you think are best for us to share at the Thanksgiving. And at the Thanksgiving, my husband comes out and presents a published book. Now, I never, in terms of my aspirations in life, I never aspired to be a published author. I never thought about being a published author. I don't think I've ever taken myself that seriously to think that walk into a room and say, oh, I'm a published author. But my husband recognized my gift, and he valued my gift in a way that even I didn't value it. And he did something with it that that elevated me in a way that I would never have dreamt or prayed or desired for. Now, this is a man who saw I'm glad he's not in the room because I wouldn't say this in front of him, but this is a man who saw something in me and wasn't intimidated by it. Instead, he not only encouraged it, he pushed me. And, he would say to me, I'm really proud of you. You want to be with a man who won't be intimidated by your light. You want to be with a man that makes you better. When he's with you, How does he make you feel? You know, there's a difference between, you know, having, you know, going out and having fun and being with someone and feeling good about yourself. You know, you can feel good. You went to the club, you went to a party, you went to a wedding, and it was lit, and the jollof rice was on point, and that DJ was doing something. But it hits different when you had an encounter with someone who made you feel good about yourself, who made you feel like, I've never seen myself like that before. I've never experienced that type of love before. I've never had that type of care before. That's what, those are the things that I would say you should look for. You should look for how that person makes you feel about yourself. Look at how that person challenges you. Does that person make you a better Christian? Does that person encourage you to pray? Does that person encourage you to be yourself? You know, even in terms of preparing, the reason why it's so important to prepare is so that you get to know yourself. I was watching something on Instagram a couple days ago, and a lady who's just gotten divorced. She's been married for 20 years, and she said that she went to the grocery store and had a breakdown because for the first time in 20 years, she was buying something for herself and she didn't know what she liked. She bought a particular type of cereal because that was the cereal that her husband ate. And she bought a particular type of meat because that was the meat that her children liked. But she didn't know herself. Now, if you don't know yourself, how do you know what is good for you and what is not good for you? It's not everything that is good for you. There's some people who can eat bread, there are other people who can't. Bread is good, but there's some people who have gluten issues. There's some people who are lactose intolerant. Milk is good, but it may not be good for you. Maybe you need almond milk or you need soy milk. You can't have cow's milk. All these milks are good milk, but what do you like? What is good for you? What builds you? What strengthens you? What, you know, gives you energy? You need to know those things about yourself to be able to determine and discern if this good thing or this good person is good for you. You know, in having said all of this, there was a question that Auntie Lamide had sent me, which was, how do you do all of this and not walk by sight? Now, I would say you have to walk by sight. You know, in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 16, at the end of that verse, it says that we have the mind of Christ. And, you know, it's so funny because I had, a couple years ago, I had a really, really traumatic experience. It devastated me. And I was telling my brother about it. And I said to him that, when this happened, mom said, Yomi, I don't think this is a good idea. I'm not sure. And I was like, no, mom, you cannot walk by sight. You have to have faith, mom. And, then I'd see things that concern me, but I was like, no, you have to just believe. Just believe. If you've prayed about it, then God has to do it. So just believe. And then, my husband would say, Yomi, I'm not too sure. I'm like, no, don't worry. I have faith for all of us. Don't everybody just, at that time I was praying. If I blew in a mic, I'm sure everybody will fall down in the stadium. Like, that is how much faith I had. I had faith that, something happened, and I hadn't slept in 2 days. And I was like, look, Jesus slept in a boat in a storm. Who are you if Jesus slept? And as I put my head down something said to me, Yomi, Jesus prayed all night. He cried blood. You're sleeping. And I jumped up and I was praying. And, you know, the situation ended in unmitigated failure. It was every dimension, physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, financially, in every dimension, it was a disaster. And so I was telling my brother that, you know, I kept struggling with, but why didn't God stop me? But why didn't God say, I shouldn't do this? Why didn't, and my brother said to me, but he did. Every time you saw something and you saw that it was wrong, that was God showing you that it was wrong. Have you forgotten that you have the mind of Christ? If you're a child of God and you have the mind of Christ, then you have discernment. So when you see something and your spirit says it's wrong, don't second guess yourself and say, oh no, but you know, let them not say that, oh, you know, she's carnal, oh, no. If there's something in you that is bothered by this thing, accept it that the Holy Spirit is telling you this thing is not for you. If this thing is for you, then God shouldn't let it, God will, even if you think that, oh no, this is not for me, God will reveal to you eventually that no, this thing is a good thing, this thing is for you. And if it's not, then walk away and know that you haven't lost anything. You know, with God, we won't lose any good thing. So if we won't lose any good thing, then don't second guess yourself if you've trusted God. If you've trusted God for something and it doesn't look right, go back to him and let him confirm for you that no, stay on this path. And if he doesn't confirm to you, then get off that path because you have the mind of Christ. Don't second guess yourself. Don't let anyone make you be foolish to be able to prove that your faith is strong. Faith and foolishness are two different things. You know, we don't walk by sight, but by the Spirit. But the Spirit is ministering to us continuously. So if the Spirit shows you this thing is wrong, take it that this thing is wrong. So I would say that you do have to walk by sight. You have to keep your eyes open, but your eyes are open with discernment to understand that what you're seeing and what you're hearing is not what you're seeing and what you're hearing. That's the Spirit of God that is doing that. And that is what you have to carry with you on this journey in terms of finding the one. So on that note, I am going to step down from the podium and let Auntie Lamide jump back in.
So have you finished? Because I know I timed you, but if you haven't finished, we can take you for another 5 minutes. Okay.
No. I'm good. I'm good. I wanted to make sure I had enough time for questions because I always feel like what you think someone wants to hear and what they actually want to ask about are two different things. So I always like to leave enough room.
Yeah. Fantastic. Very well done. This was really good. Well, I didn't expect anything less. You know, somebody private messaged me and said, such wisdom and so young. I wish I knew these things then, no. But it is well, because I love the way, you know, right out of the gates, you know, you were on it. Yes, telling us there are so many ways to choose a husband, but not every way is expedient. Don't go and get someone and shave their heads, okay? And I'll put on clothes and think that is done, you know. And honestly, I loved the way you used the Bible to say there were different ways. You know, you've heard about this one where it says, do you know the reason why God says he who finds a wife? It says because when he found one for Adam, he said, see the woman you gave me. And so he says, thereafter, everybody go and find your own wife. I'm not going to, you know, be the person helping you find a wife. And I love the fact that you said there's no one person that is the only person. And I share this a lot in Ribs, where, you know, this guy was saying, it's just your journey will be different. That for some people, the journey would have been Lagos, London, New York. Some Lagos, Japan, and wherever. And some Lagos, Ibadan, Okitipupa waterside. Okay? And it's really up to you. I mean, I know a young lady who was supposed to marry someone in America, went to America, was supposed to be there for a month, came back after a few days and said, forget it. I like to be in the midst of Iyarisi, who's down the road, who I can call on, and Baba Salisu down the, you know, I'm not, you know, everybody thought, oh, this is a better life. And she said, no way, I don't think it is, you know. So I have a few questions for you. And please, if anybody has a question, put up your hand or, you know, put it in the chat. You see, there's so many people clapping. So I have a few questions. Is there a timing to this? How do I know? Is there, you know, is it something I'm going to know immediately, as in all these things you've said to notice? If it's like that for a month, is that fine? Let's go and get married. Or, you know, is there a time frame or some kind of frame?
So I would say that I don't think there's a time frame. And the reason I say that is because I think the quality of your interaction determines how well you get to know someone. You know, there are people who meet someone and in a very short period of time have gone through something with that person in which they've gotten to see multiple sides and multiple facets of that person. And then sometimes you have other situations where you're casually dating. You know, every time you guys see each other, it's very polite, it's very surface. You always have other people around. So you haven't really had deep conversations where maybe you've asked each other uncomfortable questions or awkward questions. And until you have an opportunity for a level of intimacy. And when I say intimacy, let me be very clear. There is sexual intimacy and there is non-sexual intimacy. And non-sexual intimacy is even more important and creates a much stronger bond than sexual intimacy. So being able to ask each other difficult questions. Some of the questions are easy, you know, oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh, what are the things that you look for in a partner, or those questions that I would say even those ones are superficial. But when you start having difficult questions in terms of how do you want to raise your children? Where do you want to raise your children? If I lost my job, would you be able to support me? If you if things aren't going in a particular way, how did you handle it in the past? You know, I think also investigation is good. You know, you meet someone, find out about the person, ask around. There's so many resources available to us now in terms of finding out about people that there's no reason why we should be blindsided. There's absolutely no reason why, you know, you should get into a relationship, get married to someone, and then find out that, oh, he had 2 children with his previous partner. There are too many ways for you to have found that out beforehand. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's about time. I would say it's about your own research, your own interactions, the quality of the interactions you're having with the person, and your observations of the person. You need to see the person in different scenarios and pay attention. You know, if he's parking and the parking attendant comes up, how does he talk to the parking attendant? How does he talk to the waitress? How does he talk to or how does he or she talk to the housekeeper? How do they talk to their mom or their younger sister or their older brothers? I mean, when it comes to siblings, it's always a bit tricky because with me, my love language is meanness. So every time I pick up the phone and it's my sister, you will hear one of my children say, "Mommy, be nice. Mommy, don't talk to Auntie Biggs like that." And I'm like, if I'm nice to her, she'll think there's a problem. So I have to be mean. But you know, how do they treat their mom? How do they treat their aunties? How do they treat elderly people or people who are at a disadvantage? How do they? Those are the things that you need to observe. So it's not about time. I would say it's more about the quality of your interaction.
Fantastic. I loved the way that you talked about being unequally yoked and that it's not only about Christianity. I'm always saying this all the time. You know, if you go on holidays all the time and this person doesn't understand holidays, there might be a challenge. You know, if you come from a background where you're all educated and this person is the only educated person in his family, there may be challenges. I'm not saying there definitely will be, but that you have to investigate, because being unequally yoked is not only related to religion, as they say. Okay. Must there be arguments? You know, if you've never had an argument, is that a red flag?
That's an interesting one.
Because, you know, when people meet people, right, you're meeting the representative of that person initially, and that person is going to be on his or her best behavior. Okay. So what do you think about, you know, should we argue? Shouldn't we argue?
It's not in my nature to look for trouble. So I don't normally, you know, think, oh gosh, I can't wait until we have our first argument. Oh, it's gonna be great. But I think that arguing is healthy. I think it's good to be able to disagree and even agree to disagree. I think having arguments shows you how the person deals with conflict. So, you know, if we disagree on something, are we able to disagree but still be respectful of each other? Is it possible for us to disagree without hurting or harming each other? So having arguments is healthy and it's a good thing. And I think at some point you will have an argument, you will have a disagreement. In terms of expediting the process, I don't think that's healthy. I think naturally we put on the best version of ourselves. However, as time goes on, your true self comes out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think also for the girls, pray a lot, because you know, someone once said to me that, oh, we men, we're hunters, you know, so we will do whatever we need to do to reel you in. So pray that the best version of him that you meet will eventually reveal himself. And you know, that's where discernment comes in, because he can keep up a facade with you, but he doesn't need to put up a facade for the waitress. He doesn't need to put up a facade for the nanny or the security guard or his secretary or his colleague that aggravates him. He doesn't need to put on a facade for them. So even if he's putting on a facade for you, how does he treat other people? If he's abusive to other people, at some point in time, you will experience it. If he's considerate to other people, at some point in time, you will experience it. So it's like the friend that has loose lips. know and have peace that whatever you confide in her, all your friend circle know, just know it and have peace. Don't think you're so special that, oh, she's giving you everybody else's tea, but she's not sharing your tea. No, darling, you're not that special. She has loose lips. So even if he's this chivalrous, considerate, generous gentleman to you, he can't be a jerk to everyone else and consistently be this Prince Charming to you. At some point, he will be a jerk. So yes, I would say that even if the facade is up, watch him with other people, and don't look for an argument. But if and when it comes up, it's a good opportunity to see how you guys will deal with conflict. So.
No, the reason I said that is because someone once said that if there is a family meeting and everybody leaves smiling, somebody didn't tell the truth. And just saying that, it could be the woman and it could be the man who is sort of just, taking things. But if, like you said, you've argued and it was just a normal argument and, you resolved it and moved on, then you will know how that person behaves in an argument, because some people are really, really good actors, honestly, really good actors, but maybe not for so long they can be, and not with everybody, like you said. Now, somebody has written something here directly to me. It says, what do you do if you keep getting, I guess, godly signs and messages regarding love and relationships? The fact that God may have already sent the one for you to you, but is first seeing if you, in this case, her, is ready to accept him. Okay, are you following me thus far? Now he says,
no, can you
okay,
say it again?
I think I'll decipher what I think the person is saying. That
Okay.
if you've been getting signs, okay, from God, right, about love and relationships, and then he sends the person to you, but the person doesn't come to you to say, you are my wife, or to try to ask you out, because he's still trying to decipher if you will accept him or not. The fact that God confirms with both of you and the guy that we're going to meet each other, the fact that God is teaching me to be patient and trust in his ability to provide someone who is meant for me, okay, I think is just saying that, what do you do if you feel that you've gotten messages that Mr. X is for you, but Mr. X doesn't really say anything, but somehow you know that, I don't know how, but somehow you know that Mr. X has also received that you are his wife, but Mr. X isn't making a move. Do we clobber him? What do we do?
Yeah, I like that idea. I like the idea of knock him on the head and drag him. Okay, in 2025, we're not waiting for anyone. Don't do that, please. Don't do that, please. I think your girl, get his attention. Find first of all, are you even interacting with Mr. X? Because I would find it a little bit for me, it's a little bit challenging that, maybe you had a dream and you saw this person in your dream, and you wake up and you're like, oh, God has told me I'm marrying this person. If that's the case, then my grandma was definitely supposed to marry Michael Jackson, because I had a dream when I was about 6, and I saw my grandma marry Michael Jackson. I did. However, she never left her husband. She never did. So, when we say that God has confirmed that this is your husband, how did he confirm it? I mean, did you guys have a conversation and you were like, Lord, if I get to the well and then he offers me water and then he offers to put petrol in my car, then I know he's the one. Now, if you had that conversation, then you know he's the one. However, if that's the case, then find a way to befriend him. Find a way in which to get to know him and him get to know you. So even if you feel as if, oh, this is the one, you've seen it, this is the one, you still have to do things in a healthy way, in an organic way. I think if you go up to him and say to him, the Lord has revealed that I'm your wife, it may frighten him a little bit. So let's not use that strategy. Be his friend, get to know him, let him get to know you, and then hopefully the friendship will blossom. That's what I would. That's what I would
But you
suggest.
see, unfortunately, in the past, over the years, you know, and I'm journeying on my way to 70, a lot of those sort of things haven't worked out. A few have, but a lot of the times, you know, the woman just sees the man trot off to marry somebody else, you know.
But if he trots off to marry someone else, then was he really your only, was he the one? I mean, it goes back to the question of the one. Because if I'm serving God and God, I'm his child, and you know, let's also understand that God is not like the gods of Mount Olympus. Okay, he's not Zeus and Hermes that were playing games with human beings. So I don't think the God will tell you this person is the one for you, and then the one will go off and marry someone else. So I think
even take too long in coming to you. You know,
yes.
you've said, okay, befriend the person, but we can't, I don't know if, you know, God isn't, like you said, he won't be dangling something in front of you and then it's not happening. You know, it's not something that's going to be a year, 2 years. You know, she said that, oh, God is teaching her patience, but, you know, he's not a taskmaster. Do you understand? He, you know, if he's revealed, he will reveal to the other person as well. And he won't have you waiting, you know. And if you say the person has also received this, why is the person not making a move, you know? And like you said, it comes back to, is there the only one for one? And I think we've concluded that, you know, one may be the best option, but there probably isn't only one for one. You know, they probably, and I mean, we see this when, you know, so people get widowed or people get divorced, they still find somebody else. If there was one for one, then once you're widowed, you're widowed. Do you understand? And there isn't any other. But okay, let's move on very quickly. It says, how do you get to know more about the man if you don't live in the same country?
Flesh and blood has not revealed it to you. I think that at some point, if you want to be with someone, you need to be in that person's space or in that person's location for a significant amount of time. I think that it's possible to get to know each other virtually. So yes, I mean, we're on Zoom, and I feel as if you don't only have people in Lagos, you may have some people in America or Canada or in Brazil. So we're all interacting. So it is possible for you to have virtual interactions, but even just, you know, chatting on the phone, I can't tell your facial expression. I can hear you say, but I don't actually know if you're paying attention to me or you're watching TV or you're doing dishes or something else. So at some point, you need to spend time together. Now, that's spending time together, spending time in the same location is not the same thing as living together. That is not what I'm advocating. But at the point where you're looking at potentially spending the rest of your life with this person, then you would need to know what it is like to be around this person physically for an extended period of time. So I can't tell you when to do that, but at the point where you're willing to make a commitment to this person, then you should be looking at how to at least spend some time together in the same location.
Fantastic. Somebody says that concerning investigations and finances, When is it appropriate to start talking about sharing finances in a relationship? When is it a good time to ask how much each person earns?
Yeah. In terms of finances can be very tricky because it also, money also shows you a different side of people.
Yep.
And it can be a good thing in terms of bringing you closer together. It could also be you. Now, at the point where we are dating and getting to know each other, what I earn is absolutely none of your business. I'm just not prepared to share. And if at the onset I'm asking you what you're earning, then what are my intentions? Now, at the point where I am in a committed relationship with you, and we're looking at we're talking about a long-term connection, we're talking about potentially getting married, I think financial disclosure is extremely important. Because it's one thing for me to be dating this engineer, he's in oil and gas, and he drives a Mercedes. So he has an apartment in Lekki Phase 1. So, he's doing well. Now, what you don't want to be is blindsided when you marry this person and then discover that their salary is 1 million naira, but they're 100 million naira in debt. That is not what you want. So for me, I would say at the point where you are, at the point where you're looking at, you're looking at the long term, you're now at the point where, okay, we want to be together and we're potentially going to get married, then I think it is good to talk about, you can talk about your income. And I think you can also, I think that it's very important for you to talk about your debt profile and your liabilities. Now, so I'm going to say this because what I'm not going to be is a Pharisee who says one thing but practices another. So I'm that girl who won't necessarily share my savings. So I can tell you how much I earn. I can tell you how much is on my credit card, but you will definitely have had to sign a document that says we are legally bound together for me to tell you that, oh, I have a little a rainy day fund in case. Yeah, so that's just me, because I feel as if that's something that I don't need to share with you until we are one. At the point where we're one, then everything that's mine is yours and everything that's yours is mine. But before we are legally one, I don't need to know about your inheritance. You don't need to know about mine. I don't need to know about your investments. You don't need to know about mine. But in terms of debt, I need to know if you're owing people. I need to know if you have a problem with finances, with financial management. Those are things that, you should look at before you say, yes, we're ready to get married. There may be some things that you may find out that you're not comfortable with, that you guys have to work together on to get into the marriage. So I would say at the onset, when we're just dating, that's none of your business. But at the point where we're looking at a lifetime commitment, then yes, we do need to sit down and look at that. I think the reason why, with finances, it can be tricky is that you also need to get to know the person, because there's some men who are uncomfortable with with their wife or girlfriend earning more than they are. And you can, someone once said to me that look, even though you can afford an E-Class, just drive a Picanto, so that you don't you won't scare them away, or you won't. And Christ has given us life in abundance. Why do I have to diminish myself in order not to intimidate a man? I mean,
He's clearly not the one for me. He's intimidated, clearly.
but I mean, for me, I feel as if you are my man, if you are my husband, you should be able to carry my weight. You may not earn what I earn, but that has nothing to do with your capacity. That has nothing to do with your presence. You should be able to carry me, and it shouldn't diminish you. I shouldn't have to be less than or present as less than in order for you to stand tall. The light that God is shining on me and the blessings that God has given me should actually make you bigger. It should puff you up. So I would say, if you feel as if he's not going to be comfortable with your real self, that's you being real, and that's you being yourself. How long are you going to pretend to be struggling for, so that he doesn't feel intimidated? But you're thriving. Well, so yes, again, in terms of finances, that's where discernment comes in. That's where values come in.
Discernment, yeah. Let's rush through the rest. It says, is it a red flag if the man is Christian, from a strong Christian family, but says he's not established in any church, watches online, and once in a while goes into a church?
I think I don't. So first of all, I am not. I don't believe in judging people's Christianity. That's not why I'm here, and that's not what God wants us to do. I think the other thing is, your Christianity isn't about like going into a physical building. It's about your relationship with God. There are people who go to church every single Sunday. They go to a physical church every Sunday. They are even workers in the church. So they're there for first service, worker service, Saturday prayer, Wednesday meetings. And they are mean-spirited. They are condescending. They are judgmental. Those are not the values of Christ. Check Corinthians, where it talks about the fruits of the Spirit. That's not love. That's not patience. That's not joy. So I don't think, and the thing is, someone who's grown up in a strong Christian family, that's not what qualifies you to be a Christian. What is his relationship with Christ? His dad being a pastor does not mean anything, because there are some pastors' children that are not manifesting the spirit and values of Christ. And there are some people from really problematic backgrounds that God has raised out of those backgrounds to show that his salvation isn't about where you're from. I can bring you up from anywhere, so I don't think you need to worry about his family, even him watching online. What is his relationship with Christ? How do you see his Christianity and his Christian values manifest in his life? I think it's good to have Christian community, and maybe that's what you need to discuss with him. But I can't tell you that it's a red flag that you watch service online. Some of the pastors that have spoken to me the most were not pastors who I could physically go to their church, but the Lord spoke to me through them. So I don't think the medium determines how real your Christianity is.
But what I would say to that is that if it bothers you, enough, then you had said something that if something seems wrong, it probably is. It may just be a way of God speaking to you. So having said all of these things, which are true, if it bothers you for any reason, don't stick with something that bothers you enough. Anything that bothers you enough may not be a red flag to somebody else, but if you're feeling uncomfortable about it and you're feeling this isn't what I want to be doing, okay, then you can actually say, okay, it's a red flag. You understand?
I
You
think we said that, even if it's not bad, it may not be good for you.
Exactly.
And it goes back to, what do you want, and does his not going to church affect your ability to go to church? Does his not, can you go to church together once you're together? So I guess that person has to answer for themselves.
Yeah.
What is good for you, and is this good for you?
Yeah. You're right. I think there's a final question that says, I have another question regarding the same guy, the guy that is like in my dream, or God has said this person. He says, what if the person cares about you that much? They don't believe at this current moment they can be the man you need them to be, even if they don't want to. Should I rather find someone else that can be there for me than for me to wait for him to get better or get there, even though he wishes I would deep down, but doesn't want me to limit myself to just him in case he doesn't get better?
So my understanding of the question is,
Person knows that
God has revealed him to you as your person, and God has revealed
you
to him that you are his person. Now, you guys actually have had some level of interaction, but he feels as if he's not where he needs to be to get married. Now,
and he's ready for you to go with somebody else who might be able to treat you better. I'm sensing that. But deep down, he doesn't want you to move on. But he's also saying, oh, maybe you should move on in case I never measure up.
I'm getting mixed messages because I'm struggling with, do you want me or do you not want me? If you want me, but you don't feel like you are, I don't even know if it's that you don't feel you're good enough or you don't feel you're ready. What are the things that qualify your readiness? Are you working towards, so are you saying to me that, look, Yomi, I love you, I want to be with you, but you're used to certain creature comforts, and I want to earn enough to be able to provide you with those creature comforts, or I don't have a job right now and I need to get a job before we can get married, or because I think if you're not good enough for me, what qualifies your goodness?
And
Is it who you are?
And he says that, and she says that the person would rather I find someone else that can be.
So I think where I'm going is, if you said to me, oh, financially, I don't think I'm ready to get married, then I would expect that you will put a plan in place and say, oh, I'm saving, I'm doing this, we're working together. If you say to me, I don't think I'm good enough for you, and I think maybe you should find someone else, then I struggle with how God revealed to that person that you are his person, but he is telling you, go elsewhere. Because I don't know anyone who loves someone to say, go and be with someone else, unless maybe he's just a bad person. I'm not.
Yeah, I think
it's a
he's
bit
not.
tricky.
I think he doesn't have the. I think because she says deep down he wants to be with her, but but he's saying, look, just in case I don't make it, maybe you need to go to someone else. I personally think he's not serious, and I don't know how much. I mean, I don't think God would. Again, God is not a taskmaster. Do you understand? He will not toy with your emotions. If he said this is the guy and told the guy this is the guy, and then the guy says, well, in case I'm not the guy, go to somebody else. I don't know if he's the guy. I don't know if he's the guy.
I mean, if he loved you, then he wouldn't want you to go elsewhere. He would want to work on himself to be worthy of you. I think that's different from saying, look, maybe you should go with someone else. Anyone who is comfortable with releasing you to someone else is not someone who is going to fight for you, is not someone who I think it's I don't have the full context, so I don't want to I'm trying to be very careful, but I think
I think
look at certain
the man is trying
principles.
to be chivalrous. I think the guy is saying, I really would want you, but at this point I can't. And instead of saying, look, give me a year, which is what I think would, give me a year. I think he's being chivalrous. Do you understand? He's being generous to say, I don't want to tie you down.
For me, there's something in the Bible that says it's by their fruit that you will know them. So what tangible actions is he taking towards being with you? What tangible actions is he taking towards being good enough for you? Because he may be saying, oh, look, I don't want to hold you back. But is he doing anything to hold on to you? Is he doing anything to level up to you? Look at those things. Because maybe, yes, he could be chivalrous, but oh, sorry, is someone jumping in?
No.
Oh, okay. I was saying, yeah, he could be saying certain things so that it doesn't seem as if he held you back, but he's actively doing things to show you that I don't want you to go, and I'm doing things. Look at what I'm doing this isn't where I was last week, last year, last month. So again, I would say to the person asking the question, what tangible evidence do you have that he is actively trying to be with you, and he's actively trying to walk in what God has revealed to the two of you about you being together? So beyond what he's saying, again, this is discernment. So he may be saying something, but his actions will definitely show you his heart.
Yeah.
And can you see anything concrete in his actions towards being with you?
Yeah.
Even if he's saying, look, if you get impatient, I won't hold it against you. But what is he doing that shows you he wants you to be with him?
Somebody said, how do you speak to someone who always speaks disrespectfully to you in an argument? Who is rude and disrespectful in an argument?
That person isn't worthy of your time, your presence, your company. Why am I? And you can only be rude to me once. You can only be rude once. We won't, what we won't do is be disrespectful to each other. And what we won't do is say, in the name of relationship, I will allow someone to disrespect me or to hurt me. If we're having an argument, we should be able to disagree without cutting each other down. So that's called abuse. Someone who is verbally disrespectful and does it, that's abuse, and that's not something that we stand for. You don't accept it. It's not a fight, but that person is not the person for you if that person is using abusive language towards you. Sorry, that might have been a bit hard, but
no, but we need to nip abuse in the bud very quickly. So two more questions, and this will be it. time is fast spent on a work day. Somebody says, a lady started speaking to this guy who reached out via Facebook, and he asked her age on day one, but the lady did not disclose. But on second speaking, the guy revealed his age, and the lady realized she's 5 years older. At what time should she disclose her age?
I I don't think we should be ashamed of our age. Your age is just when you were born. And there are people who are in relationships, long-term, healthy relationships with people who are significantly older or significantly younger. I think, again, this is where we talk about being with someone who allows you to be yourself. If you're afraid to say your age because of rejection, then you're not going to be yourself with this person. And the longer you withhold your
Hold back
age,
that age, yeah.
the more hurtful it will be if that person, you know, rejects you.
Yeah.
I used to have a policy when I was younger where if I went to the shops and a man asked me how old I was, I would look at the person and be like, for you to be asking me that age, for you to be asking me that question, you're either too young for me or you're too old for me. So if you're looking at me and you're asking, then you must be trying to make sure I'm legal. That means you are too old for me. And if you're young and you're then no, you must be 16 and I'm 25. No. But at some point, as an adult, what you shouldn't be ashamed of is your age. Anybody who qualifies you based on age is not for you.
Yeah.
God allowed you to be born when you were born. That's not something to be ashamed of or to hide. The sooner you tell the person, the better. I don't think it's a first date, third date. Let the person know.
Yeah. And finally, this is a bit of a tricky one, and I don't know if you can answer it, but I'm going to ask anyway. He says, good evening, Ma. Thank you for this platform. God bless you. My partner and I have found out that we are not genetically compatible. I don't know that I have the faith to stand, and I don't know if this is a test of my faith, but I do desire a natural conception.
So this is a tricky one because, we're taught that love conquers all. And, even though the doctors say something, because we have faith, it won't be our portion and we won't have any issues. But what happens when it is your portion? And I remember an aunt of mine whose son was in a similar situation in which they'd been together and they loved each other fiercely, and then they found out that genetically it was very dangerous for them to be together. And he was really fighting for the relationship. And she said something to me that stuck with me. She said that it's easy for him to fight for this, but what happens when you have a sick child? And then you begin to resent her for having tied you down to this bottomless pit of grief and sadness. Now, I think with the advancement of technology, for the writer to have said, I desire a natural conception, you can't have your cake and eat it. So if you want to be with this person, knowing what has already been revealed, then I think there's an element of selfishness when you want to stay with a person, but then you want to still expose yourself, and even the child. I mean, if you know beforehand that for us to have a child together naturally might give this child a compromised life, as a parent, are, are you choosing that for your child? Disadvantage? When, why, again, it goes back to, we have the mind of Christ. God has revealed this to you. It's not as if you got into it and then found out. This has been revealed to you beforehand. So why deliberately choose something that may not be good for your children? But if you said that, well, with technology, we can circumvent that, then I would have said, well, prayerfully, discuss it with
So,
your partner and
yeah,
prayerfully.
but what she's even saying, I think she just really just wants an out, because she says, I don't know that I have the faith to stand. So she's already saying she's not even sure she can really just be praying, because she's not sure she has the faith. And I don't know
So,
if it is a test of my faith, but I do desire a natural conception. So she's like,
so, so in that case, she's not struggling to stay in the relationship.
I don't think so.
Then I think she already knows her answer.
I think so. I think so.
She
I
already
think
knows her answer then.
I think so. I think so. I think she really just, she feels bad that that is what it is, but she sort of accepted that this may not be the best thing we should be doing, Yeah. But just in case there's anybody else, yes, you can actually have, technology can help, but technology is also expensive. And, it also involves a lot of things that if you know that you are the sort who you just, not that we can never be guaranteed it, that we're just going to, get on the bed and make a baby. But if you know that, you don't have the heart, the faith, I know some people who, I know a guy who had been going out with this lady, was ready to marry her for years and years, and then discovered that, oh, something they hadn't thought of. And he said, look, he has a sister who has compromised health, and there's absolutely no way he's bringing a child into the world, But then I must say, back in the day, it wasn't like it is now, that you had a lot more options. Yeah. Well, wow, I cannot believe it that it is 10:30 on a work night and we're still talking. But it's because this has been really, really, really interesting. And I know that it is a topic that is on people's hearts, because we know that one of the critical success factors of your life is who you decide to end up with. And like you said at the beginning, we thank God we have free will. We thank God we can choose. But I think that's also sometimes a problem for some people. They would rather just be told what to do, because, you don't want the responsibility to know that, oh, you chose the wrong person. But again, what I believe is that God is a loving Father. He will not allow us to make that mistake. If it is a day before and everything scatters, then you know that God is likely to be in the back of it somewhere. Except of course, if again, it's just a ploy of the enemy. But what I'm trying to say is that we will not make a mistake. The Lord will help us, and we will make the right decision. And, what I would say though is that, because, for people who are in relationships now and you're questioning, it's good to quickly decide. When I say quickly, I don't mean next week, but don't drag it on and on and on. It takes a lot. It's more difficult, because like the lady who said, when should I say my name? When should I say my age? Of course, the sooner, the better. Don't drag it on and then in 6 months say, oh, this is what my age is, and then that is a problem. Your mom says, well done, you did very well. We're all really proud of you. And I know that we're going to be hearing more and more of you. You might be in a closet for a little bit, but yeah, your showing is now. And, we know that you can speak on almost any topic. And I just love the way you come into the topic, just in a very natural and authentic way. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Thank you for coming and blessing us. And this is recorded, so obviously we'll send you a copy, and we'll send everybody a copy so that we can listen to it over and over again. Thank you so much, Yomi, and God bless you. And thank you
so much, Auntie.
Thank you so much for everybody who has come and who have listened up to 1.5 hours. Usually we try to finish in an hour, 10 minutes, but this is a very, very important topic. And so we're not taking it lightly. But I know that the Lord himself is speaking to people, and, with listening to your talk, they'll be able to go back and, speak to God in more revealed light. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless everybody who's come. Shalom, shalom. And I just pray that indeed, you know how it is. They tell us that once we've heard a thing, the judgment won't be over us because of what we have heard. We have received the wisdom. We've heard the wisdom, and we have received the wisdom. And it'll work well for us on the day that we need it, in the name of Jesus. Thank you so much. Shalom, everybody. This is going to be posted soon, and very soon. Thank you so much for coming. Okay, let me just stop recording. Good night.